Parlays and player props are back. It's week 3 of the NFL season. I got 7 picks incoming, including 2 1.5 unit plays and 1 sleeper entry at the end of the video. But first off, we got to recap how we did last week. Bring out the brooms, baby. A 4-0 sweep in this video. We post it every single Saturday, and boy, did we dominate bringing out those brooms. Kenneth Walker, Lamar Jackson, Bijan Robinson, Christian Kirk all did their jobs. A 4-0 sweep. Let's try to do that once again. I'm even rocking the same shirt from last week. Not superstitious. We're just going to try to stick to the momentum and keep this train going. We have dominated on Sundays. Primetime props are kind of cursed. We can't seem to hit primetime props, but Sunday we've been dominating. Let's do that once again. Let's bring out the broom once again. My name is Austin from Calling a Shot. Appreciate you sticking around with me. If you want to hit that subscribe button for me, do me a favor. Go down below. It's free. Hit the subscribe button. Drop a like too. Let me know your favorite props down below. We have 2 other NFL videos that will be live for Sunday. Number 1, posted on Friday, our NFL spread picks. Not only do we have a couple spreads, team totals, we also have another player prop in that video that I wanted to secure early. Really like that prop. And then our second video will be actually getting posted right after this one around 6 p.m. Eastern time. Will be our long shot parlays. Last weekend we gave out 2 NFL long shots that turned $10 into $1,000. We hit 2 legs each, so we actually went 2 for 4. If you somehow parlayed the 2 winning legs of each of the parlays, you turn $10 into over $600. So I really like the one I cooked up. It will involve a couple of the players I talked about in today's video, but definitely go check out that one. Posted at 6 p.m. Eastern time. You definitely don't want to miss it. And then my final note, as I talked about at the top of the show, a sleeper entry at the end of this video. Sleeper, one of our great sponsors, and they give you the great bonus offer. If you sign up using our code COS or the link down below in the description, you get a 100% deposit match up to $100. It's free money. Take advantage of that deposit match. Get those free coins. I love Sleeper. We love playing on their app. I do them all the time, and we got a great one at the end of the video. But let's dive into our favorite plays. We're going to start with the 1.5 unit plays first, and this is going to be an under for 1.5 units. We're taking James Conner under 76.5 rushing plus receiving yards, minus 115 on Bet365. Personally, I'd play this for probably around 72.5. Wouldn't go any lower than that. Let's talk about why I'm fading James Conner, though, as a lot of people don't like taking unders, but I really think this is a tough matchup on Sunday versus the Cowboys. Obviously, the Cardinals enter this game 12.5, 13-point underdog, so we could see game script really abandon the run, which obviously would be great for us, and Conner just hasn't been a huge receiving threat. In fact, you look at his season so far. In week 1, 62 rushing yards, 8 receiving yards. He did have 5 receptions in week 1, only turned that into 8 receiving yards, obviously going under. And then week 2, he had a big game against the Giants, 106 rushing yards, 0 receiving yards. So he's gone over and under in one game, but this is a terrible matchup for him on Sunday. And in both those 2 games, the Cardinals have had a lead in those games. We think about that Cardinals-Giants game last week. They had a lead nearly the whole game, ended up choking it in the 4th quarter. And then that first game against the Commanders, they had a lead in that one until they lost in the 3rd. So either way, we think about the Cowboys defense has been dominant this year. You look at the running backs versus Dallas this year. Saw Saquon Barkley in week 1, 63 yards on 15 touches. Breece Hall last week couldn't get anything going, 9 yards on 4 touches. Dalvin Cook, 7 yards on 4 touches as well. So they just really struggled overall. And you got Micah Parsons coming off the edge, so we could see James Conner try to help out over there. You got Leighton Vander Esch just kind of waiting in the middle of the field, waiting to crack someone, or he'll go out there and just tackle James Conner. At the end of the day, I imagine the Cowboys offense or their defense will come into here with the game plan. Hey, Joshua Dobbs, go beat us. We're gonna load the box, stop James Conner, get in the 2nd and long, and we're just gonna stop you, make you beat us. We got great corners, even without Trayvon Diggs, who's out for the year. Still got good cornerbacks, a good secondary. Make Joshua Dobbs beat you, and I think that bodes well for us to cash this 1.5 unit play. Obviously, if you don't know what units are, just a standard bankroll management term. Normally put 1 unit on each play, which is about 1% of your bankroll. For this one, I like 1.5 units or 1.5% of your bankroll. I really like this play. We'll fade James Conner. Also, like if you want to just fade his rushing yards, I don't blame you there. Receptions, the running backs have only averaged 4 receptions for 11.5 yards versus Dallas so far this season. I'll be fading James Conner. Now let's get to my second play, which I absolutely love. It is a same game parlay. Let's talk about these 2 fellas. They play in the same game, obviously. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Bijan Robinson. We're putting them in a same game parlay. For Amon-Ra, we need 50 plus receiving yards. For Bijan, we need 50 plus rushing yards. Now, Bijan has been an absolute tank. I wanted to back him in some way, and Amon-Ra has just been so consistent. I do have to shout out my friend, Player Props. He's on Twitter. Go show him some love. He probably posted this one. I'll tag him when I tweet out the play, but he gave me the idea for this one, and this is just an absolute smash spot for both these 2 fellows in a game that could sneakily be a higher scoring game. But look, Bijan helped us out last week with the reception prop. Today we need some rushing yards, and honestly, if you go to DraftKings, you probably will not like the value you see with this one, like minus 190 195, but we're getting this at minus 108 on FanDuel. 1.5 units will throw on it. Let's start with Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I wanted to get 50 plus receiving yards. Does enter with a little bit of an injury risk here. I'm not too worried about that. He's going to be a full go in Sunday, and this is Amon-Ra. He's always super consistent. You're looking at 50 plus receiving yards in 21 of his last 25, and in 12 of his last 13 games. His only miss was with 49 yards on the hook. This season, we've seen him dominate 71 and 102 yards. Even in that 71-yard game, I think he barely had anything in the second half. So he's been really good. And the Falcons, who he will face against on Sunday, if you were to look at receivers versus them, you'd be like, dang, this team's clamping up. Really, they haven't faced two elite passing offenses. They faced the Panthers, a team that really stinks throwing the ball, and the Packers, too. Jordan Love just couldn't get anything going last week. They also had 110 yards, a lot of defensive pass interferences here. You look at Amon-Ra, not really a guy that goes deep a whole lot, the guy that finds those zones, and Jared Goff finds him. And look, Amon-Ra just super consistent. I'll keep riding with him. I think Amon-Ra maybe has a chance to get his over in regular receiving yards, but I'd rather take the 50 plus. This guy that's super consistent, always has that high floor for us. Now, on the second leg, we need Bijan Robinson, go get it done, and Bijan's just been so good. I want to watch it because he's been insane, especially as a rookie running back. You're looking in week 1, Bijan only played 63% of snaps, had 10 carries, 56 yards, getting it done. Week 2 saw a little bit more work, 72% of snaps, 19 carries for 124 yards. Last week, he faced the tough Packers defense that really is stout on the front, when they're D tackles. But if you can get to the edge against them, you should have some success, and that's what they did. We saw some Bijan highlights juking people, and I think they're going to do the same thing. Try to get him out on the edge. Tyler Algier, not necessarily the fastest guy. Bijan could just make anyone miss, and I just think this is a great spot for Bijan to keep it going. The Lions have faced 2 bad rushing offenses so far, which is why you don't see them giving up a lot of rushing yards. They face the Chiefs and the Seahawks, 2 teams that normally if they can somehow decide to just pass the ball, they probably will, especially the Chiefs, that is. I think the Falcons, even if they are trailing, Arthur Smith, the head coach, will want to run the football. I really like this 2-leg same game parlay, minus 108. I really think it should be like minus 150. I think we're going to get great value here. 1.5 units we're throwing on Amon-Ra and Bijan. Go get it done, 50 yards a piece. Let's keep it moving, though. We got 5 more player props, and we're going to make these quick. Travis Kelsey, the next one, over 71.5 receiving yards, minus 110 on Bet365. If you're facing Travis Kelsey in fantasy football this weekend, say a prayer, because I think he's going to have a massive day. He not only, I think, gets 75 to 100 receiving yards, he probably gets into the end zone at least once, maybe even twice in a very, very good matchup. Now, obviously, Kelsey missed week 1 due to injury. He returned last week, knocked off a little bit of rust. He returned, played 64% of snaps, hauled in 4 of 9 targets for just 26 yards. The Jaguars just had his number, and he also him and Mahomes just couldn't connect on several passes. But I consider that a 1-game sample size that he's just going to come out here, shake things off, no pun intended. What does this video become now? But I really do think that he'll be able to do his thing against this Bears defense that has struggled. You look at the Bears, they allowed 50 receiving yards to Luke Musgrave in week 1 on 3 receptions, and then in week 2 allowed 41 yards on 5 receptions to Cade Otton. We think about Cade Otton and Luke Musgrave, they do not have the target share that Travis Kelsey does, and they couldn't stop those guys. Good luck stopping Travis Kelsey, the best tight end in the league since the start of last season. Kelsey over this line in only 9 of 18 playoff games, so 50% of the time. And I really like Travis Kelsey back in Arrowhead on Sunday. I think him and Mahomes are going to have a big day. One of my game picks is in this game. I think it's a higher scoring game. Give me Travis Kelsey to have a big game. We'll take his over 71.5 yards. We're running with him. Now let's keep it moving. We got a guy that I really like, Elijah Moore, over 39.5 rushing plus receiving yards, minus 115 on DraftKings, playable to 42.5. The clear pivot here, Elijah Moore is a wide receiver. I'm just targeting the rushing plus receiving, and we'll talk about that in a second. Obviously, if you don't have rushing plus receiving, just take us over in receiving yards. He's going to need more receiving yards than not to get this over. But like I talked about, I'm opting for this rushing plus receiving because they've actually been giving him a carry or 2, and that could give us a better chance of hitting this than his regular receiving yards. You see why? Through 2 weeks, Elijah Moore's game log. You look at week 1, 3 receptions, 7 targets, 43 receiving yards, and 2 carries for 19 yards, 62 total yards. We'll take that. And week 2, only 3 receptions, 9 targets, only 36 yards. So if you took his receiving yards, you might be in vain. But he had 1 carry for 5 yards, 41 yards total. Obviously, Nick Chubb's out of this offense. Could we see maybe Elijah Moore gets involved a little bit in the ground game here and there? Sure. This against the Titans defensive front that is one of the best in the league. You are going to struggle to run the football against this Titans defensive front. Maybe we see them do some handoffs or some jet sweeps and stuff to Elijah Moore, get the guys out on the edge. Maybe that's where they find some success in the ground game. But either way, we're going to need the yards to come through the air more likely than not. I'm just taking it because he's had 1 carry. Maybe he busted 15, 20-yard rush, and we get get this pretty sweat-free. But look, most of the damage is going to have to get done in the receiving game, and this is a master matchup. I mean, you look at this this Titans secondary has struggled. They've allowed the 5th most receiving yards to wide receivers this year at 238 per clip. 5 wide receivers this year have 60-plus receiving yards first them this season, and the volume is there for Elijah Moore. 7 and 9 targets. Him and Deshaun Watson just haven't been able to connect just yet, but I really think Elijah Moore is in for a big day. I'll give you a hint right now. If you haven't checked out our NFL $10 to 1,000 parlay video, Elijah Moore's in there in my parlay for 50-plus receiving yards. I think that's a great look for plus 160, but we'll take him here for rushing plus receiving. I think Elijah Moore has a chance to have a big day. The targets are there. Amari Cooper probably has a decent day on the other side, but Elijah Moore's been seeing the targets, just needs to connect on 1 or 2 here and there. He's really talented. An ex-New York Jet. I know he's talented because the Jets let him go. Elijah Moore, we're rolling with you. Let's keep this job moving, though. We're going to go to another guy I love, Adam Thielen. Over 3.5 receptions, a little plus money, plus 120 on BetMGM. I'd personally play this about around minus 110 or so, but Thielen is the guy that plays a lot of snaps for this Panthers team, and he's out there, and they're going to need to pass the ball on Sunday versus the Seahawks. But look at Thielen so far, playing a lot of snaps. Like I said, 88 and 87% of snaps so far this season. In week 1, only 2 receptions on 2 targets. Week 2, 7 receptions on 9 targets. Now, the key note here, Bryce Young is out for this game due to injury. Andy Dalton incoming, and honestly, Bryce Young obviously is the future of the Panthers. He'll be better than, Andy Dalton long-term probably, but Andy Dalton is a veteran QB, and it's not like I think he will make this offense a little bit better while Bryce Young is out. Bryce Young, obviously, he's just a rookie coming into his first 2 starts, and he looked like a rookie out there, but Andy Dalton's seen everything, and I think he'll just be sitting back there and be able to dink and dunk and add to Adam Thielen. I mean, you actually think about in the preseason, back in March, actually, before even the preseason, in free agency, Adam Thielen obviously came away from the Vikings to the Panthers. One of his main reasons was Andy Dalton. And I don't know if they're best friends off the field, but either way, if you said that, I imagine Andy Dalton's probably going to target him. And if they're friends, you might as well throw it to him. It's not like there's a lot of pass catchers out there that Andy Dalton can say, screw you, Adam Thielen. We're throwing it to someone else. There really isn't anyone out there competing for targets, and this is a team that's going to have to throw the football. I mean, the Seahawks are a great matchup as well for Thielen. They've allowed the 2nd most receiving yards and the 3rd most receptions to wide receivers this season. We saw last week to the Detroit Lions. Josh Reynolds had 5, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 receptions. They both hit this over. In week 1, you saw Tutu Atwell at 6, and then Puka Nacua, he had 10. So both those 2 guys hit the over. The Panthers defense probably is going to struggle against the Seahawks wide receivers and running backs. They're going to have to throw the ball, and we've seen Dalton have success last year with the Saints. I think he continues to have success. We only need 4 receptions. I think is a great spot. He had 7 last week. I don't think he necessarily gets 7 this week, but I think he has a great job, a great matchup in receptions and receiving yards. I really do like Adam Thielen on Sunday. And then my final player, actually, we got 2 more. This is a long video. Let's go to this receiver, Mike Williams. I think is over 62.5 receiving yards, minus 110 on Bet365, playable to about 67.5. I wanted some action on a game that has an over-under. It's at the 54.5. They're clearly expecting some points in. Hopefully Mike Williams is helping out the people that want to take the over and the highest over on the slate. But we've seen Mike Williams so far this season, obviously with a new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. He's played pretty well. You saw week 1, only 4 receptions, 5 targets for 45 yards. Not great. Obviously, that was against Miami. And then 8 receptions, 13 targets against that great matchup for 83 yards in week 2 versus Tennessee. He could arguably had over 100-plus yards against Tennessee. Just missed out on some key plays. Now, week 1, he struggled against Miami, a team that plays a lot of too high safety, a team that doesn't really allow those big plays, which is sometimes where we see Mike Williams targeted. However, in this matchup against the Vikings, a team that struggles to get pressure and the blitzes a lot, still struggles. I think we'll see Herbert have a lot of time. I think Mike Williams could honestly have a big play that could make this almost a no-sweat bet. But you think about their injuries, they got Austin Eckler out. And while Joshua Kelly likely does some damage on the ground, he's with the Vikings to hone in on that rushing defense. They sucked last week on Thursday Night Football against the Eagles. I think they hone it in on there. And we know this Chargers team, even though they probably could run the football for a lot of yards, this is still a team that says, if we can pass it with Justin Herbert, we probably will. And we see Mike Williams have some good games. And I think this is going to be a great scheme for him all year long. And we look at his reception prop, sitting at 4.5 with minus 150 on the over. So they really like him to get, 5 receptions, potentially at least 4. And we've seen Williams, 65 plus receiving yards in 21 of 28 games with Justin Herbert at QB. When he sees 4 plus receptions, that's 75% of the time. And when he sees 5 plus receptions, he's hit this in 18 of 19 games with 5 plus with Herbert starting. I think his one miss was on the hook with about 61 receiving yards. So look, if he gets the receptions, I will live with this. Mike Williams has that big play potential, but also has those big chunk plays that maybe he gets like 10, 15 15 yards a couple times, and boom, he's right at this over. Love Mike Williams on Sunday. And my final play for this one, then we'll talk about a sleeper entry. It's going to be another same game parlay, very similar to the Bijan Robinson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, because it involves a guy that I just kind of spoiled his name, Nico Collins and Travis Etienne in a same game parlay. We're taking Nico Collins for 50 plus receiving yards and Travis Etienne 50 plus rushing yards. Now, if you want to be a little bit more conservative, dial this back down to maybe 40 plus for each of them, but I'll go 50 plus because I think these guys have great matchups, and this is plus 151 on FanDuel. We're putting a unit to win back 1.5, so it's not a 1.5 unit play. I don't love it as much as the Bijan and Amon-Ra one, but it could win the same amount of units as that one would if they both cash. But let's talk about this one and why we really like it. Honestly, if you can't do same game parlays, Nico Collins is the one you would take. You take his over in receiving yards, but I rather sit to just put Nico in here. I love his matchup, and also throwing Travis Etienne was a great matchup here too. But let's talk about Collins first. He's been great this year. The number one receiver for CJ Stroud, 80 and 146 receiving yards so far this year on 6 and 7 receptions. The targets are there, 11 and 9 targets. He's also accounted for 40% of Stroud's air yards. I mean, we see Stroud airing it out. They don't have much of a run game with Dameon Pierce, and they're likely going to be trailing on Sunday against the Jaguars, where they're like 8.5 point underdogs. So we see them probably in a positive game script for passing the ball. We've seen Nico Collins been that number one guy, a guy that CJ Stroud looks for. I don't think he gets double teamed here because it's not like he's like DeAndre Hopkins, if you will. I really do think he'll have a good game. We saw Michael Pittman Jr., 97 yards for Jacksonville in week 1, and the Chiefs wide receivers just went off. You saw Mahomes pass for 305 yards. Travis Kelsey only accounted for 26 of it. So I really think Collins is a great spot. A lot of people will be on him on Sunday. This is a different way to be on him. 50 plus receiving yards. I think it's a great spot. His receiving yards line kept going up and up and up. I think this is a good way to play him. Tagging along with Travis Etienne for 50 plus rushing yards. I mean, you look at Etienne coming off a bad week though, but in week 1, we saw him 18 carries for 77 yards. Week 2, they just stunk. 12 carries for 40 yards. Still playing a lot of snaps, 80 and 72% of snaps. And look, he should get the rushing attempts on Sunday. You look at his rushing attempts line sitting at 15.5 juiced on the over. Look at last year versus Houston. He dominated this matchup. 10 carries for 71 yards and 9 for 108. That was when he was split in the backfield or they blew him out and it just wasn't a competitive game. He still crushed this line, and we saw him hit the 50 plus yards in 9 of 13 games last year with 10 or more rush attempts. This is still a tough, not a great defense. D'Amico Ryan's going to make them better on the ground, but still not really that good. You look at his 4 misses when he's missed in those 13 games. Versus Tennessee once, versus Chiefs twice, and then versus the Chargers. Look, those are those first 2 are tough matchups. The Chargers, I think they won that game by 28 points, so they really need ETN out there. So, look, I really like both these 2 matchups. I really like, you can put them down to 40 plus if you want, but I rather just go for 10 more yards each, 50 and 50, plus 151, putting a unit on it to win back 1.5, I think is a great way to do it. So that was my 7th and final player prop of the video, but like I promised at the top of the show, my sleeper entry is incoming. I'll throw it up on the screen, but a reminder, if you want to sign up for sleeper, make sure you use our code COS or the link in the description. Get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Take advantage of that free money. Honestly, I don't really need to touch on all these. I've already touched on all of them. Thielen, the receptions, more over in rushing plus receiving. James Conner under in rushing plus receiving. Mike Williams over in receiving. And Travis Kelsey over in receiving. $50 turned into $1,000 on that parlay. 20x my money. You can 20x your money too if you want to on a sleeper. Make sure you use that sign-up code at the top of the description, or just use code COS when you load up the app. Appreciate you guys as always for tuning in. If you want to check out our other 2 NFL videos, we have that long shot parlay. I already spoiled one of the legs, Elijah Moore, but go check out the other one. I think this one's back, and I got 5 legs. One of them's on Monday night. I really like that one. And then Logan also has one in that video. If you see him from our MLB videos, he cooked one up. He went 2 and 4 last week, cashed a plus 375. Of course, if you want to check out our spread picks on the screen as well. Long video. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. It's going to be a big Sunday. Hopefully the shirt is lucky. Hopefully the brooms are back out next week for this edition of the video. Let's absolutely dominate on Sunday. Subscribe if you're new. My name's Austin. I'm signing out. Go check out those other 2 videos. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.